clear acknowledgement that inflation has topped out. Now, of course, the Fed is maintaining that 2% is the ideal objective where the inflation would peak, where they want US inflation to settle. It's nowhere close to that. Now, what has changed is at the beginning of the year, the rate cut forecast versus where we stand right now versus in the last meeting where everybody talked about a rate hike, looks like the Fed now clearly seems to be acknowledging that inflation has peaked out. It will be too early for them to cut rates. Similarly, it is too early for market also to assume that the Fed is likely to go beyond one rate cut, at least in this calendar year. But Aisha, for me, there used to be a time for all of us when we would sit in the studio and we would analyze every comma, every full stop, every comment from the US Fed.
Yeah.
Today, if you look at markets have moved independently of what the Fed communication has been. And I think somewhere Fed really has been very flip-flop in their entire communication. First post-COVID and now at the beginning of the year. So what I'm trying to say here is that Fed, in terms of importance, in terms of relevance, and also the impact they've had on financial market, that is diluting.
Yeah.
Markets are moving independently of what the Fed communication has been. So while what Fed is saying is good, but markets are saying, okay, we hear you, we acknowledge you, but we have a different set of circumstances which in a sense would be crucial. We used to always think that rate hike means bad news for emerging markets, rate cut means great news for emerging markets, whatever Fed would indicate, that in a sense become like the line, that became the benchmark, so to speak. But Fed, I think, is losing relevance and also its impact on the financial markets now.
Yeah, that said though, last night you did have Wall Street which cheered that news. You had gains coming in, you had the Asian markets as well which are tracking those gains and indications of a gap up start on the gift Nifty, at least a start of about 0.5%. But back home, let's also track the cues on D Street, a gain of about 0.2%. You did have the broader end of the market yet again, which continued to prove its might. And we actually witnessed, Nikunj, the longest short covering since April 2023.
Yeah, so let's look at market and global market from 4th of June. Why 4th of June? Well, that is the day when the election verdict came out in India. Indian markets are right up there. 7% is what markets have gained from 4th of June, which includes, by the way, the recovery from Tuesday's fall or last Tuesday's fall. India is up 7%, but more importantly for me, Hong Kong is down 3%. Now, at the beginning of, or at least in the first half of this year, the trade was, FIs were selling, there was an event risk, money was moving into China, and Hong Kong was outperforming. I think the table is looking very different now. Indian markets are outperforming global markets, the event risk is behind us, and Hong Kong or Hang Seng, that is down by 3%. So are we at that turn from a global allocation point where FIs have been selling and selling and selling and selling, now they're ready to come back? There is early evidence of that, which is that they've stopped selling, they are covering their short positions, and they in a sense are increasing their India allocation. Now that's the macro part, which I think everybody should focus on, that this entire bogey which everyone, at least in global markets, thought that money will move out of India, it will continue to move to China. China is cheap and it is more attractive. I think that turn is happening. If this turn is real, which is that China underperforms, FIs are back in India, then we actually could be in for a solid bout of outperformance, because there are no sellers in the market. FIs are buying, DIs are buying, retail is buying. So from a technical standpoint and from a liquidity standpoint, the market actually could see better days and will continue to see outperformance if this scenario which I constructed turns out to be true.
Yeah.